I pirated the phrase from French-speaking Africa. There's a French word, débrouillardise, and to say someone's a débrouillard is to say that they're self-reliant and ingenious. And so the informal economy, what we call it here in English-speaking Africa, is in French-speaking Africa called l'économie de la débrouillardise, or System D. And it's basically the do-it-yourself economy. People form businesses without getting licenses and sell things on the side of the road. And it is the major employment generator of urban Africa. Everything from gala sausage rolls to popcorn, as one lady mentioned in the conference, to food, to tomatoes, to mangoes, to mobile phone recharge cards are all being sold on the side of the street, and the market is immense. It's huge globally. It's $10 trillion a year in trade. And so that's an extraordinary amount of money. It's almost equal to the gross domestic product of the United States.
So every day we see people joining this informal sector and starting up their own businesses and so forth. But we don't see that translating into the numbers in terms of employment rates improving, even economic growth per se improving. How do we harness them and move them out of the informal sector to the formal sector so that we can see the kind of developmental growth we need?
Well, I don't think it's necessary to, quote unquote, move them out of the informal sector into the formal sector. I think the idea is to look at these massive marketplaces as huge business entities and to find out what do they need and how will they participate in the system in some way. So if you go to the emergence at Alaba International Market here in Lagos, which is a massive economics trading market and billions of dollars a year in trade, and you go to them and say, what do you need? And what in exchange for that will you give back to the government? Then I think that begins to recognize how important they are and how the government can serve them and they can serve the government. At the same time, I think the merchants need to get together and represent themselves effectively so those decisions can actually be made.
Finally, in terms of reaping the benefits of our future megacities, I mean, what advice do you have to offer to African governments, African city leaders in developing themselves in a way that's going to bring out the best for themselves and their people?
Well, the thing that I would say is I don't think it makes sense for African governments to copy Europe. So to try to develop Lagos or Kinshasa or any other African megacity in the footsteps of London or Paris, I think, is not what makes sense. The strength here in Lagos, it seems to me, and the governor alluded to it in his talk, was the entrepreneurial strength of Nigerians. It's famous everywhere in the world. And so if that can be the way that Lagos develops, then that can show a model for how other Nigerian cities and how other African cities can develop by working hand in hand with the entrepreneurs who are largely these days in the informal sector in System D.